Hey everyone, Britta Albert here. If this is your first time here, I am a spiritual transformational life coach. It's my goal for this channel to help you overcome the obstacles that are standing in the way of you living your best and most authentic life. In this video, I'm going to talk about multi-dimensions, timeline shifts, and free will. Now, timeline shifts, I actually talked about this, well, I didn't talk about it, I mentioned it in my last video. You can check that out here. And I've talked about it briefly, touching on it in a couple of videos. Now I want to go into it a little bit more to explain to you what I mean by timeline shifts and how people are able to shift timelines. Now, quantum physics tells us that there are an infinite number of realities happening simultaneously, and the way to think about them is not so much that time is linear, but more think of time as parallel. So you have the year 2000 here, the year 2001 here, 2002. So that way, with concepts such as time travel, instead of you going from one point to another point, you can actually stay where you are, but you just shift into a parallel dimension, a parallel time. There's also a theory that multiple dimensions are on the earth plane at the same time. So with multiple dimensions on the earth plane at the same time, you also have parallel timelines, right? When they work together, then you have timeline shifts. There's an unlimited number of scenarios happening simultaneously throughout the universe in alternate timelines and alternate dimensions. Now, you have come across somebody living in an alternate dimension while you are living in your current dimension or timeline. And then we coexist because of free will and our co-creation with each other. A good example of this is when I had a conversation with somebody who he chose to live in an extremely fear-based belief system. Nothing I said to him was registering. He would not receive anything that I was saying because the world as he saw it in his reality, if I were to observe the world through his eyes, I would see it as a very fearful place and I would have a very pessimistic attitude because that is at the level that I'm currently vibrating at. So I am in alignment with this lower density reality, this lower density timeline where these things happen. If he was able to shift himself into my vibrational energy and my timeline, he would see the world as not as scary as what he's perceiving it as. He would not see these lower density belief systems playing out because I don't participate with them in my timeline. So if you're encountering somebody who has a different belief system than you can say, well, that's cognitive dissonance. If you're unfamiliar with what cognitive dissonance is, this year is the perfect year to understand what that looks like. It's somebody's inability to receive fact that contradicts their belief systems. It is true mental stress. They're not able to let go of their belief system in order to receive this new information, either fact or opinion that contradicts their current belief systems. And it causes actual mental stress to the point where they're going to shut down and they're literally going to fight in order to keep and maintain their reality. So this is what it looks like when you have multiple dimensions that are interacting with each other. Now you can say, oh, well, it's just mental and each person is suffering from their own form of mental illness. Yes, you could look at it that way. We're not all vibrating on the same frequency. We're not all at the same place collectively. You have like-minded individuals, say they have a very positive outlook on life. They can see that although something might not be exactly the way that they wanted it to plan out, what is a positive that they can take away from this? Now, are they experiencing a different reality from the person who's looking at the exact same experience and they're focusing on the negative? No, they're living in the same plane of existence, but they're experiencing it from two different fields, two different vibrations, two different frequencies or dimensions. When you are focused on a certain vibrational energy or outlook, if you are hell-bent and determined that you're going to find the negative in everything, you're going to find it. Do not be surprised when you find it. The same way, if you are just absolutely passionate that you are going to find the positive in every situation. You're going to find the lesson in that. You're going to find the jewel that benefits your personal growth or what you could learn from the situation. You will find it as well. So COVID is a perfect example of this. We're all experiencing this on the same plane. We're all experiencing and going through COVID, but it looks different for everybody. It could be different based upon the social and economic situations that are going on, where you live, what opportunities you have or don't have. I'm not talking about that in particular, although that plays a huge part because it affects our ability and how we can quickly shift or not shift at all out of those belief systems. But we see it all the time. If you take somebody who is in poverty and they believe in themselves and they believe that they're going to have this certain life and they accomplish it, that should not be a shock because they're shifting timelines as they continue to move into a new form of reality that is fulfilling the narrative that they're telling themselves. And there's nothing wrong with that. And you can take it from the other side too. If you take somebody who comes from extreme wealth and somebody who has all of these perfect opportunities in life, and yet they're completely looking at the negative, and they're going to see that the world is falling apart and everybody's out to get them, and they have this paranoia building, and they hate themselves and they hate everybody else and they isolate themselves. What success do they then have? They're going to continue to dig this hole that they'll find themselves in financially, health-wise. They're going to be alone, they're going to be scared, and everything in life is going to reaffirm their beliefs about what they see the world as. So they're continuing to shift timelines and going down, down, down into a more dense experience. Now, are either one of these good or bad? No. You might say, well, clearly the person who came from poverty shifted their mindset, believed in themselves, worked hard, and overcame all the obstacles of external life that came to them to get to this point of safety and security and success. Clearly that is the better alternative. That's the better option, right? Than the person who is miserable and lives this fear-based lifestyle and they see the world in this way. It is not good or bad. The reason that you can label them as good or bad is because it's based upon what you choose to experience. Any of us, given the choice, we would choose to experience externally, we would choose to experience something of a higher vibration. We choose to experience love. We choose to experience joy. We choose to experience safety. We choose to experience success. We choose to experience respect. We choose to experience fulfillment, whatever that is. It's clear and obvious that we would choose this one over here, so therefore we label that as good. Why would we choose suffering? Why would we choose a life of fear? Why would we choose these things? So we would label this right here as bad. But this life over here, given the way that we respond to it, could make this person more humble, give this person compassion. Maybe they never had compassion. Again, goes back to my video of what is perfect love. How can you have compassion for that which you've never experienced? So maybe this person had to come off of their pedestal to come down here, shift these timelines in order to experience this so that they themselves could become a better person, that they could have more compassion, they could experience what that's like. Don't judge what other people come here to experience. That is where the free will comes into play. You, again, I've said this in so many videos, everything is a spectrum. Where on the spectrum are you? And you're going to move up and you're going to move down, and life is a roller coaster. You have your ups and downs. Energy flows. It does not stay in a straight line. Even light bends around objects. Everything flows and it moves and it's fluid and it's perpetually moving forward. When people are talking about timeline shifts, it is as easy as making a decision. It is your intention and your free will. The moment that you make a decision and decide, I'm going to do this thing, you've now shifted timelines. It's not this big mystical thing that's this woo-woo spiritual, it is what it is. Everybody shifts timelines multiple times throughout the day. You have bigger shifts when collectively we come together and we make decisions as a community, as a state, as a country, globally. When we start to be in unison with our intentions, that's where you have major timeline shifts. Again, I've talked about it before, but you go back and you look at World War II. Why did that happen? Well, we can look back and we can see this, led to this, which led to these people believing these lies, and how fear was used against the people to draw this narrative and paint these pictures. And we can see how it all built and it came together. But what ended up being the end result of World War II is the world, majority of the world, got involved. And collectively, no matter what side they were on, collectively we agreed that this is not okay. This is not going to be the way that we're living anymore. Both sides at the time felt justified in their parts because they did not want to be living the lives that they were living anymore. So even though it seemed like we were on two opposite sides, the hearts in their own way were saying the same thing. If we take away language and you look at this US election that just happened, take your pride out of the equation. Take your feelings about both candidates out of the equation, okay? If you even have feelings or perspectives on it. If you look at, we're going to oversimplify, just for the sheer sake of time. If you just say that there's two parties, and I know there's way more than two groups in this, but if you just say that there are two groups, there's group A and there's group B. And we're not even going to say who's in group A and who's in group B, but there's group A and group B. And group A is saying that we are terrified of a tyrant who is going to potentially destroy the world with another war. Group B is saying we're afraid of a tyrant that's going to cause things to happen, that's going to potentially destroy half the world and cause another war. They're saying very similar things. If you take out language and you take out the narrative of what the actual opinions are at the heart of all of the issues, both groups, group A and group B, they're wanting to live freely. They're wanting to live healthy lives. They're wanting to be prosperous. They're wanting their families safe. They're wanting to be happy. Thank God that God is not a God of technicality. Language is technicality. God looks at the heart. Where we're being told that we're so divided, and you could see it, I mean, it's arguable, it's mathematic. If you look at the US election in 2020, how close we were, how divided we seemed. But you look at group A and you look at group B, and again, this is a very oversimplification, so don't come at me. They're saying essentially the same thing, although it comes in different forms. They have different opinions on specific things. Both are afraid of the same thing from the other side. So if you take away language, the technicality, and you just look at the heart, we're much more united than we think we are. And when collectively we can come together and we can be united in our intentions and say, we are going to pursue a healthier life. We are going to pursue safety for all. We are going to pursue these things. That's when a major timeline shift happens. But you can have a timeline shift just by waking up. And you can play this game all day long. Some timeline shifts will still lead you to the exact same end result as the other 5 potential timeline shifts. But some timeline shifts, they'll lead you in a completely different direction. Have you ever had a serendipitous opportunity where you found good somewhere you weren't expecting it? Maybe that day you chose to take a different route to work, which led you to hit traffic that you weren't expecting, which made you have to go to the bathroom really bad, and you had to pull over somewhere. And wherever you pulled over, say it ended up being a coffee shop, and after You did what you had to do. You decided, let me go ahead and grab a coffee. And standing in line, you start talking to somebody, and maybe they end up being your spouse 5 years later, or maybe they don't. Maybe they just give you a word or a message that you needed to hear in that moment, and it made your day and it shifted the trajectory of your day. And that's what we call synchronicities. It's all these little things that work together to unfold what you need according to the moment. But if you didn't make that decision, then it would have been a completely different trajectory. It would have been a different timeline. Now you've made a timeline shift because your intention, you chose to do something different. Now, if you chose to do the same thing over and over again, that's fine. You can stay on that timeline, but are you growing? Are you going to experience the things in life that you want to experience, or are you playing it safe? There's no judgment in either decision. Neither is good or bad, but which one serves you, which one does not serve you, and ultimately, what do you want? And that's where the free will comes in. So with timeline shifting, it's a very exciting thing because it just means more opportunity. It means more opportunity for good. But if you want to see the negative, sure, you can say it means more opportunity for negative. I don't choose to participate in that because it doesn't serve me. It causes me anxiety and stress and things that steal my joy. To understand the multi-dimensions, I think the timeline shifts probably makes sense at this point. But to understand the multi-dimensions, imagine radio waves and how you tune your radio station. We live on one Earth, right? We're on this planet. And on this planet, there are thousands, if not millions, maybe even billions, I don't even know, of radio waves and radio stations. And we can dial that knob on the receiver on our radio and tap into a radio station. They're all in the air. Whether you're aware of them or not, it doesn't matter. You interact with them every time that you dial that receiver. And if you want to hear classical music, you dial your receiver to the classical music. If you want to hear rap or hip hop, you dial your receiver to the rap or hip hop. You want to hear hard rock, you dial your receiver to that, so on and so on and so on. That is what multiple dimensions within the same earth plane looks like. It's what you're tapped into vibrationally. Are you looking specifically at the negative? Are you looking at the positive? Or are you, like most of us, somewhere in between, and it moves and you'll go up and you'll go down, and you'll go up and we have these external things, and somebody might say, hey, turn this to this station because you got to hear this. And they're excited about it. And we're like, okay, cool. So we turn to this radio station, metaphorically. And what they're really doing is they might be telling us about their belief system, and they're excited about their belief system. So we're tuning into them emotionally, psychologically, and we're listening to the information that they're giving us, and we're either buying into, we're in agreement with them of their belief system, or we're not. And if you're in agreement with them and you're not intending to be in agreement with them, then what can you do to bring yourself back? What can you do to dial that radio to bring you back to the music that you wanted to be listening to, that wasn't pulling you down into a fear-based belief system, or wasn't necessarily putting you in a belief system that you don't subscribe to, that wouldn't serve you? The best thing that you can do to maintain your frequency, to maintain your metaphoric radio station, is self-care. It's going to be getting enough sleep, eating healthy things, drinking clean water, taking time away to recharge, spending time in nature if you have the ability to, reading things that are uplifting, listening to things that are uplifting, watching things that are uplifting, and for some people, unplugging from all of that entirely. It might look like taking naps. It might look like baking or cooking. This is the stuff that people were doing when COVID first kind of came, at least here to the States. We slowed down. Some people started meditating. Some people started doing yoga. Some people started just walking. Some people started working out. Some people who chose those healthier self-care options, they're doing much better, and they were able to handle everything as it was coming much better. The people who chose to stay at their TVs and continue to consume the media and to continue to consume these fear-based belief systems and continue to believe that they can't even leave their house because they're gonna get sick. They have everything delivered, and again, there's no good and bad. There's no right and wrong. It's just two different experiences. There's a group that chose to experience this. There's a group that chose to experience this. The group that chose to not do self-care, to not move their bodies, to not go outside, to not eat the right things, to continue to consume fear-based stuff, they arguably had a harder time during lockdown. The group that had self-care was able to maintain their energy, maintain their headspace much better. So two different dimensions on the same plane, experiencing the same thing in two different ways. I hope this makes sense. If you do one thing, if you take one thing away from this video, it's just to understand the power that you have to control your energy, to control your timeline shifts, to control how you see the world and how you experience things and how you create your reality. Self-care is going to be your number one ally. And that really is pampering yourself. It's gonna feel selfish to some people, especially those mamas out there. You might feel guilty because we've been told that it's selfish to look after yourself, but this is why the airplanes tell you if those oxygen masks come down, put your mask on first, because you can't help anybody when you're burnt out. You can't, and you can't see the potential of opportunities when you have these timeline shifts. This is to empower you. If you're taking care of yourself and you're filling up your needs, then your immune system is going to be stronger. Your nervous system is going to be much more balanced. You're going to have less anxiety attacks than you've had currently when you are running yourself thin. It does so much for your success, for your opportunities, for just the way that you experience life. And then you're on this timeline shift track where you're just like up and up and up and up and up, and you're progressing towards a life that is going to serve you versus a life that's holding you hostage. Comment below if you have questions about this, or if this made sense, even if this resonated with you. And if you are not subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And if you think of somebody who needs to hear this video, go ahead and share it with them. If this video gave you any kind of perspective that you've never had before, or it resonated with you in a way that just sets you free, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you hated it, give it a thumbs down. Again, communicate with me. Let me know what you're liking. Let me know what makes sense. Let me know what you want to see or what you don't want to see. And those thumbs up and thumbs down, they help me know what you want. I love you guys. I hope you have an awesome day. I'll see you next time.